Everybody, from playing the victim card across the pond to playing the victim card in Congress, we're going to move over to the congressional Democrats.
That's right.
Who had their own little Brexit.
Oh, my God. Well, first of all, I'm going to get back to Lefty's point. One, it's incredible to me how the Democrats, if you don't do what they think you should do, think you're an idiot and a moron, and they call you all kinds of names. The bottom line is the UK people voted. Scotland wanted to stay. Great, they can stay. England wanted to leave.
No, they can't stay.
They've already set up the Nicola. I can't remember her last name, but her first name, the MP of Scotland, has already set it up to say.
No, she's called for it. They haven't scheduled anything.
Yeah, but she's getting it set up so that they can separate from Britain and stay with the European Union. The bottom line is people got to vote, and now they have to figure it out. People over there, very reasonable. Hey, listen, we should be able to control our borders. We should be able to provide the services that we think we should provide to our citizens and not foreign people that haven't put into our system. They were able to make their own decisions. Now, whiny, stinky Democrats are the same all over the world. They're all whining over there in the UK. They're sitting down over here. You know, honest to God, it just proves they're all stone 60s hippies. Who has a sit-in, right? You can complain about Ted Cruz all you want, gumming up the works here. At least he had a bunch of people going, we want you to do that.
Well, yeah,
so constituency.
So the Democrats, though.
The Democrats had a sit-in. You know, that's amazing. Here they are. They come in with men that are protecting them with guns and take over a federal building. I have one thing to say about that. I have several. One, what a worthless effort. Number two, bravo to Paul Ryan for going, get out. And three, if it happened in Oregon, they'd have been trying to shoot him in the streets as soon as they were driving off.
Well, there's a lot more people.
That's all there is to it.
I mean, it's a lot more diverse population, so I take your point there. But what I would say in response to that, aside from the fact that the sit-in was designed as a demonstration to call attention to the fact that the House of Representatives was refusing to even hold votes on proposed legislation and gun control measures, and the sit-in was designed to call attention to that, to force votes. Basically, we're going to stop things for a while until you do your job, as opposed to the Ted Cruz hold on. The Ted Cruz, eventually the Ted Cruz led effort to shut down the whole government. So let's talk about.
They did their job.
They did their job. Trying to hold the
people to cut the budget.
Trying to hold the president hostage to defund Planned Parenthood to do what you wanted. Not to hold a vote. Not to hold a vote.
That's their job.
Not to hold a vote.
That's their job.
No, you don't hold the president hostage. The president wants to veto something. The president can veto something.
The Congress and the Senate's for.
I would love to finish one point without being interrupted.
No,
I really would.
That's not going to happen.
All I'm saying to you is this.
When you say things that are so egregious and insane, I have to go, hold on, that isn't true. I'm just supposed to sit there and get taken.
It absolutely. What did I say that's not true?
Well, that Ted Cruz held the president hostage.
He did.
Well, but it wasn't just over abortion and everything.
Sign, or not even sign. Defund Planned Parenthood. Don't stand in our way, or we'll shut down the government because we're not going to give you a funding bill, right? A continuing resolution on the funding. We're not going to do that until you defund Planned Parenthood. It was basically to allow this legislation to go through. What the Democrats said was, hey, we're going to stay in session technically until you vote on this stuff. There's a big difference.
Yeah, but they had already voted on it. They hadn't. They hadn't. Well, maybe not the House. You're correct. Not the House, but the Senate had voted on it. They had 2 Democratic and 2 Republican measures, and all 4 of them were voted down.
Yeah. Then the Senate. So the House wasn't going to do its job and vote on this legislation, which all got voted down anyway. And the fact that, once again, all the conservatives sitting there whining like victims. Oh my God! All of a sudden, the conservatives care about getting stuff done in the government, which was hilarious to me. And I gotta say, it was a silly thing. It was a silly looking thing, but I think they proved their point. and there's nobody that can demagogue a sit-in better than John Lewis. Bravo, sir. I agree with you, and I agree with your tactics.
Oh man. Well, Joe says he thinks that the sit-in was a violation of laws. I don't think it was, because I back in the 80s they when I was out there, they did a couple of goofy things like that where they kind of take over the floor.
But let's talk about this though. So
what?
Do we only care? And this is where politics is kind of going, and it ties into the election a little bit. Do we only care about tactics at this point when they favor our side? And do we delegitimize tactics no matter what they're okay? Because here's the thing.
You know the answer to that.
I know, of course I do, but I want to know from you, because you are you personally champion this stuff all the time. I talk about the sit-in tongue in cheek because it's a silly thing. It was designed to be a silly thing.
Democrats are silly.
It's a protest to do something else, and all protests are like that you never get the thing that you want from the protest itself. Because the protests, they're just to dramatize things. You didn't get civil rights legislation by marching over a bridge. But marching over a bridge dramatized the situation, helped build some political momentum. This was doomed to failure. There was no political momentum behind anything about these 4 bills whatsoever. And the Republicans are so supported by large swath. I mean, not necessarily the background check, which I think has got 90% support nationwide, but are so supported amongst pro-gun folks in the NRA that they have no political capital to lose by just ignoring the Democrats on this, which makes it even more a sillier, useless exercise. But the question is, but what was just so shocking to me about the response, the Republicans had a complete fit about this. They couldn't believe that all of a sudden you have Paul Ryan argue just railing about the decorum of the office and not being able to do stuff and having to gavel sessions into the middle of the night. Paul Ryan, who sleeps in his office to be able to do work all through the night, famously at Congress, is all of a sudden worried about the decorum. Is the guy that walked around with Mitt Romney and said, shutting down the government is just fine with me to get stuff done. I don't understand on something this stupid little stunt. I don't understand why the right has gotten so angry about it. And is it only because that's how is that a symptom, or is that the disease itself?
Well, I was kind of hoping to talk about Brexit some more and talk about
I bet you were.
But we will come back, because I think this is an important thing. What we're talking about is, do the ends justify the means, no matter who you are, what side you're on.
Basically.
And the bottom line is I know why the Republicans got bent out of shape, because we're discussing constitutional impact of some of these laws. And, as far as I know, I haven't met a Democrat yet that loves the Constitution. They're always talking about how it's outdated and the rest of it. That's what gets Republicans riled up. It's the same thing on the left. So we're going to talk about, I think we ought to go to our next subject. Can we have some kind of preventative laws or change that doesn't involve the discussion of restriction of gun rights? Can we have that? So we're going to talk about that on the next segment. Can we prevent mass shootings and gun violence by not restricting guns? Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back with that topic right after this break. We couldn't do what we do without you.